what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House, Road Edition. I am in San Francisco talking to a friend in New York City, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Today, my guest is the very funny, the very talented Linette Palladino. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's funny, you sent me the text like, here's what the show's about. I'm like, Pat, I've listened to dozens of these.
I know, and you said that. I remember. Yeah, I know. It's my own OCD. It's my own. I
love it because so many times you get invited on a podcast, and I'm like, what's the premise again?
Mm-hmm. I remember you and I met at Bananas in North Jersey, and that was a super fun weekend. They actually let me headline that weekend, which is kind of rare, but it was like a slow summer weekend, so they gave it to me. And you popped on and did guest sets on both shows and absolutely fucking crushed it.
Well, thanks to you. I mean, we'd never even met before. My friend KP Burke was hosting.
Mm-hmm. He was hosting, yep.
And he's like, come by. And I said, sure. And you were like, do you want to do time? And who says no?
I know. The guest sets are so important, man. Like, I remember Jay Okerson gave me a couple at the Stress Factory when I was brand new, and at the Laugh House when I was brand new. And like when comics, like when the headliner just lets you do 5 or 7 minutes, it's like there's nothing like it because you get the chance to finally be in front of a weekend crowd and not, an open mic in front of 3 people on a Tuesday.
And it can be tough. It can be extremely validating when you know there's 150 people there that are absolutely not there to see you. They don't give a shit about you. You're just in the way of the main event. And so if you get them to laugh, you're like, oh, maybe I do know what I'm doing.
And also people in the crowd don't even realize that either. They don't know if it's a 2 comic show, 3 or 4, you know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes people just want to be entertained because they got a babysitter, they paid for parking, they paid for tickets, they're buying drinks. They just want to see a good show, whether it's 2 great comics or 7. You know what I mean?
100%. There's definitely it happens even with huge names. They're like, who's that? Like, they just came because there was a show. They have no idea who's on the lineup.
But yeah, true. But I've been on the flip side many times where you're opening for a big name and it's a 2-person show and they don't give a fuck about you because they're just here to see the headliner. That's happened to me a handful of times with a handful of comics, and it just makes me laugh because you just have to suffer through your time.
San Francisco, how is it out there?
You know what? I don't really tell. I was going to open up with a story. Comedy is such a small world. Yesterday, to answer your question, it's good. I love the San Francisco Punchline. The crowds here are great. It's always a good time. But comedy is such a small world. Yesterday, I went golfing at a club, a golf course I've never been to. I don't live here, but I'm wearing a San Francisco Punchline hoodie. And the guy checking me in at the golf course goes, oh, my sister's a server there. And I was like, no way, that's bizarre. And then she was our server last night. So I thought that was crazy that I was at the golf course. He's like, my sister works at the comedy club. And then I met his sister last night.
Oh, that is a small world.
It got weirder because I bartend at a golf course. I've been there for 18 years. So I go and grab some food before I golf. The bartender notices my San Fran Punchline hoodie and goes, oh, we have a bartender server here that does comedy. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And that guy, his name's Dro Knows, works at a golf course just like I do and does stand-up. And he's also performing at the other comedy club in town this weekend. So it was just too much weird shit for one day. I'm just trying to golf and enjoy my afternoon, but I'm getting bombarded with people that know about comedy and all this weird shit.
I know, you can't escape it. It's everywhere.
Cannot escape it.
We're such a big little community.
It's totally true. I remember years ago, I always think about this. I was on a cruise with a bunch of friends and I'm on vacation. We're going to the Bahamas. We're going to the Florida Keys. I am on vacation. Well, I know the comic on board and we're grabbing lunch and talking shop every single day for lunch. Inescapable.
I'd see, I feel like almost for that reason alone, I'm like, I'm not taking any cruises until someone pays me to.
Yeah, this was a vacation. Have you, would you do a cruise ship? They're strange gigs. I know a lot of friends that have done them.
I agree with you. I think I would love to, especially in the summertime once my kid's off from school. I'm like, oh, this is too easy. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
it's kind of hard to get away for comedy, and leave your kid behind when your
Yeah.
husband also has a demanding job. But I have heard from people that it can get really lonely. It's a little weird to like do a show and then the next night or next day you're at the pool in your bathing suit and they're like, you were great last night. And I'm like,
Yep. Ray Romano had a great story years ago about how you never want to live with your audience. Like, because he had a really funny story. This is back before he was famous. He was on a cruise ship and he bombed, and he was like walking down the hallway and turned like a blind corner, and people were talking about how bad the show was. And it's like you can bomb your balls off, and then you have to fucking live amongst your audience. That sounds absolutely terrifying because I can't make eye contact with some people in a comedy club if I don't think my set went well.
yeah, I know.
And we're all going home. You know what I mean?
Hmm. That's literally the worst. I hate getting off stage and I know I didn't have a good set and everyone's like, good job. I'm like, shut up. Stop
Yeah.
it. You're part of the problem.
The best though is when like you and your friends just acknowledge that you had a bad set by not saying anything. You're just like, yeah, I felt that for you. Like you can't, yeah.
No, the
Because
best is when the back of the room is laughing at you bombing.
I mean, look, we are all a family, but honestly, one of the greatest joys in stand up is watching your friends suffer a little bit.
Oh, there really is nothing better. That's so true.
So, how long have you been doing it now?
I just hit 8 years.
8 years. All
So eight
right.
years ago, around this time, I would have been going to some little studio on Midtown to have class with Corey Kahaney.
Oh, I remember her from Last Comic Standing season 1. She was one of the OGs of that show.
Yeah, so
That was such a great cast.
she was our teacher through the Manhattan School of Comedy, which partners with Gotham. So you do your graduation show at Gotham.
Oh, cool. I like Gotham a lot.
Ah, beautiful.
It
Such a
it,
great club,
it
so well
really is.
run.
So close to the PATH train. I'm
And
all
Chris
about
Mazzilli.
convenience.
But Chris Mazzilli, the owner, like I mean, I'm only really friendly with two comedy club owners, but he is just so generous. He's like, yeah, send me your set. I'm like, oh,
He's very
okay.
nice. A while back, I mentioned this on the podcast many times, but I spent a little while touring with Sebastian Maniscalco, and I
Hmm.
don't know if they managed him or manage him now, but they did for a long time. And Chris and Steve are two of the nicest guys in comedy. But Chris was basically like a stenographer for Sebastian. Like he would listen to every single show and take notes, and I was like, that's awesome because. And then each night Sebastian would fine tune his set a little more. It was wild.
I've seen friends do that. Friends who I know help write for big comics. They
Hmm.
sit in the audience that night when whomever's headlining Caroline's and they take notes the whole show. So I was watching that. I was like, oh, that's something I need to get good at doing. Like I was like, oh, I appreciate what's happening right now. So you go out and you feature for the comic, and then you sit there and watch their set, and you're writing bits together. He did. So Chris Mazzilli definitely did. I have a funny story about that. I used to produce comedy shows. I still do, but I used to produce them on like a kind of like extreme level. And it was all about like helping comics grow and mentor them.
Hmm.
So I would hire a seasoned veteran comic, someone like Joe Larson, Nico White, Gina Brione, to come and do this writing session with a bunch of comics. I would pay for this. I would pay
Hmm.
for this. So they'd sit in my apartment for an hour and we'd do a big writing session. And then I would produce a comedy show where on every show, at least one of the comics, it was their first club spot. And I made it contingent. It was like, you cannot do your spot unless you come to the writer's room. Because I wanted them I didn't want them to stink it up, right? Like, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
want
yeah.
them to get pity laughs or anything like that. But I did one edition of this writer's room thing with Chris Mazzilli just for producers, for comics who produce shows. And it was an hour session in the little room at Gotham. I
Hmm.
think, what do they call it? The vintage room. He told me the most insane story that I will never forget. Not just me, everybody that was there. He's like, oh, he discovered Sebastian Maniscalco. He was at Jeff's Just for Laughs. He saw Sebastian set, and he was like, are you happy with your representation? And Sebastian was like, no, not really. And to say that he discovered Sebastian at a time when Sebastian already had a Showtime special out. And I think it was his second time doing JFL. And I was just like, oh my God, does this game ever end? Right? Like, it's so crazy to me to think that, like, you could have a Showtime special and still be discovered.
Oh, there's so many layers to this game, and there's no course, there's no one answer, there's no one way. It is wildly different for every single one of us. I could be wrong about this, but I believe that the Mazzillis also had Amy Schumer under their wing before Sebastian.
Sure,
so it's
I know,
like
he's kind of he's like that movie Good Luck Chuck, right? Like if the Mazzillis manage you midway through your career, you're just going to go on to like superstardom.
And I had a lot of fun touring with them. They were at a lot of our shows because they're based out of New York, obviously. And most of the gigs I did with Sebastian were like upstate New York, Ohio, Maryland, Virginia. So, stuff within close enough that they would go to. And they were at a lot of their shows. And don't get me wrong, they're amazing to me. But it was just so funny that like they would, watch his set and take notes and do all this. And I just felt like I was just the opener, like, nobody's paying attention to me. But that wasn't the case. But that's still just how you feel, because we were doing a 2-person show. We're doing theater, so everybody is there for him. I'm just the monkey doing 15 minutes up front.
Yeah.
But they are 2 of the best guys in comedy, no question.
Yeah, that's my big Mazzilli story. I love telling that story because it's just a reminder. It never stops, right? Like it never stops. Never stops at all. There are comics of headliners, I remember I idolize Mike Vecchione. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. And I saw Mike very early into my career doing stand-up. I was just an open micer, but Mike was a couple years ahead of me, featuring, doing some headlining works. And I remember him telling me he had a Comedy Central Presents half hour. I went to the taping. And at the time, he was still like a tutor. He was still seeing a couple kids throughout the week. And I was like, man, this guy's on Comedy Central and still was working a side gig. And here I am. I've been doing stand-up and bartending for 18 years, both of them. So, but it's fun. It's the grind is fucking half the fun. I feel like most comics, even the people like you headlining and touring, they all have side hustles. It's just...
Absolutely. You're not making a fucking living if you are the middle act and you're flying across the country every other weekend.
Oh, no, for sure.
Now, I did want to get into this. Now, you are active military and doing stand-up.
Yes, which is always kind of terrifying to me because the Army, well, not just the Army, but there's the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is like our laws. And there's this thing called an Article 15, which has turned from being this thing we used to like slap officers with in like the 30s and the 40s for spousal abuse and for not paying, child support or alimony or like it really truly deplorable behavior. And now it's this catch-all for everything from like you tweeted something inappropriate to, like you were just disrespectful. And so it's terrifying that somebody might watch a set of mine or a reel that I post on Instagram and be like, it's behavior unbecoming. And I'm like, ugh.
Wow. So is that like a real everyday concern of yours? Like
sometimes. I think I've gotten to the point where I'm senior enough in rank that I just don't care. Mm-hmm. I'm a major. I'm so close to being done that I'm like, it's whatever. And then there's another part of me that's like, most of my commanders that I've had that know I'm also a stand-up comedian wouldn't bat an eye at half of the things that I would get like nervous about now.
That's so wild. You're my first. I had Josh Firestein on. He was an army in the Army, and we talked a little bit about that because was kind of funny. He saw Dave Attell in Iraq when he was a soldier there. Like,
sure. So did Pete Stegmeyer.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a comics tour. I wish I could go back and look up who it was, because I did go to one the first time I was in Iraq in 2009. And then in 2016, when a comics tour came through, I did time.
That is so cool.
It was my second. Yeah. So I was only like 2 years into comedy at that point. And I looked up all of the comics on the flyer on Facebook, and there was one, Stephen Briggs, who I had 14 mutual friends with, and I was like, "Oh, hey, like, you know Joel Larson?" He's like, "Yeah, I know Joel." I said, "He's like my best friend." I'm like, "He's like my best friend." He's like, "Are you a comic?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Do you want to do time?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Oh my God. Do you have pictures or video from that night? Because
I
that sounds
have
like something that you would definitely want to,
I have
commemorate.
a picture. I do have the audio of that set. I was so dumb. It was so funny because like I was on a very small camp in Iraq, and so there were maybe like let's say 3,000 people there, and a lot of them were Aussies and Kiwis, New Zealand folks from New Zealand, and I was so nervous about doing that set and like basically being demoted the next day, like going from being a then captain to a private because someone was going to be upset.
Hey, we saw
But
your set last night, and we're going to diminish your rank.
exactly. So this is how stupid I am, because I took my blouse off. Meanwhile, I'm one of like maybe 30 females on the entire camp. So everybody knows who the females are. You don't know every man, but you know who the females are. So I took my blouse off to kind of try to anonymize whatever the word is myself, make myself anonymous. And I did my set. It went great. And then the whole rest of the week, I had people walking up to me like, "Ma'am, was that you at the comedy show? Because you just seem like," I was like, "Oh, like a bitch," because like army me is very serious. Like, and I don't even know half the times when I'm apparently making like a bitchy face. But like comedy me is, I hope very chill.
Dude, it's so funny because I have a lot of regulars at my job that I really like and I can bust balls with, and we torture each other, and I'm like myself. But other people, I am totally serious, like bartender and servers with like tables I don't know or anything. So I love when like people find out what you do and they're just baffled. Like their face shows it. They're very confused. Like you do stand up? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I would never in a million years guess it. I'm like, I know, but that's most comics. No, we're not walking around with signs that say I'm a comedian.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh. And I've heard so many people say like a lot of comics are introverted, and that's kind of true.
Oh,
Like,
it's very true. I mean, even in the green room amongst ourselves, we can be relatively quiet. I mean, you bullshit with your friends and everything, but sometimes in the green room, you're just looking around. We're like, we're all just awkward people here.
oh, don't, yeah, it was so funny because I've opened for a big comic a couple of times, and I've always been so awkward about making small talk with him. And then I finally realized he doesn't want to be bothered until his set is done. Don't fucking bother him. Like, and then afterwards you go to dinner and the guy won't shut the fuck up, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a totally different person. Like, he's got to get his work done, and then he can hang out,
relax, and be, you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know much of your backstory with comedy. The genesis of this podcast is finding out why my friends got into it, how they got into it. So take us back to your beginnings. Were you attracted to comedy as a kid?
I totally was. And it always feels so contrived to say that, but I was a latchkey kid. I would get home and nobody was home. So I'd spend most of my afternoons on the couch watching TV, especially Comedy Central, because it was funny. Like, I just wanted to be entertained and forget about the fact that I was like 10 and alone at home.
Where are you from?
I'm from northern New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I watched a lot of, that was when Comedy Central was just back-to-back half-hour specials.
Dude, I've talked about this with many of my guests. I lived for those years, man. Getting home from school and watching 5 or 6 Comedy Central presents and then watching the 5-minute sets on Premium Blend, like that was so formative for me for ages like 13 to 18.
Totally. Yes. Yeah, because we're about the same age. I think you might be a couple years older than me, but that's exactly what it was like. And this might be, I don't know, uncouth to say nowadays, but my dad and I would watch the Cosby specials together. Like, because they were produced by HBO. So if it was on HBO, we would watch it.
And also, he was king then. Nobody knew about this stuff. So, like, everybody, we all watched those and we all enjoyed them.
Oh, totally. It was so good. Like, so good. So simple. I mean, the man was sitting down for half of one. Just sitting in a chair.
I know. I only saw Bill Cosby live one time. It was at the State Theater in New Brunswick, around the corner from the Stress Factory, and he did 2.5 hours sitting down, and I swear to God, he only did like 5 bits. Every bit was like 20 to 30 minutes, and it was, everybody's jaw was on the floor. It was so funny, and I'm like, I was more like one-linery then. I was very like set up, punch, set up, punch, set up, punch. And I was like, how is he doing 30-minute stories, making it funny the entire time, sustaining and it just fucking blew my mind.
Oh, it's incredible.
Now I have like a handful of 4 to 6 minute stories in my act now. And I'm like, man, I want more of these. I think he's one of the main reasons why I really got to enjoy storytelling on stage.
I completely agree with that. Like the Russia-Ukraine war sent me into a spiral, and but I ended up writing some of my favorite bits that I've ever written. Like it was just 5 brand new minutes of like war stuff, and I loved it. But it is a little tough to write thematically like that.
Yeah, I mean, also if you're telling like a true story, a true story makes it. You're telling people what happened, so it could be a longer story if that makes sense. Like, just by telling people what actually happened makes for the best story. So, all right, so you and your dad are watching stand-up, you're watching Cosby, you were attracted to the
I had
comedy.
Dana Carvey's special on VHS.
Chopping broccoli, frame OJ.
Chopping broccoli! I've got cotton pants.
Is that Bing, where he's talking about his kids flicking their dicks? He's like Bing or something. Is that
no? That's when he's talking about the mannequins at the mall. They look so happy.
I remember like being in 4th or 5th grade, and all the boys in my grade school class, we would just be singing Bing, chopping broccoli, and frame OJ. We'd just be yelling it across the classroom.
Yeah. No. So I watched a lot of comedy growing up. Then in later years, when I would babysit, the kids and I would watch America's Funniest Mom, which is kind of ironic to me because Kara Montgomery, who's now one of my closest friends in comedy, despite our 40-year age difference, was one of the first moms on that.
Yep, she's a good friend of mine as well. We were just texting the other day. She is awesome.
Oh, no, I have to take that back. Not 40-year, 30-year age difference. She would murder me if she heard that. Delete that from the podcast. Yeah. So it's, and then I don't know, like I had been a performer my whole life. I did musical theater and I did acting. I played instruments all the way through college. Like I played French horn through college. I was president of my university choir.
Okay. So you had some other entertainment seeds or artsy seeds already planted.
Oh, yeah. Like when we would do, I don't know if you guys had this in your high school. You might have called them something different too. I think other schools call them like speech and communications, like tournaments. We call them forensics tournaments.
Yep. I did them in grade school.
Yeah. So I would always do like the comedic monologues or improv pairs or stuff like that. So I'd always had that background, but then I was in ROTC, so I knew exactly what I was doing after college, and it sure shit wasn't telling dick jokes on stage. Like, I mean, within 9 months of graduating college, I was in Iraq the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did 2 back-to-back deployments. I spent ages 24, 25, and 26 deployed. And then I came home and I kind of chilled out. And And then my dad got sick, and it was a very brief illness. Like from diagnosis to death was like 9 months. So this was June of 2013 to March of 2014. And it was just such a shift, like just a complete life shift focus. Like everything changed. I was at the time I was working for the New York City Department of Education doing computer systems. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to go back to working 60 hours a week at the Department of Ed. Like, I'm going to do my 35 hours a week there, get in, get out, and just do something fun and creative. And it turned out to be stand-up.
No kidding.
Yeah. Like, I took Corey's class, and I literally never looked back. Other than the year deployed, I never quit.
Take her now? Before you took her class, did you do a set yet, or were you?
No.
Okay, so you were in the class too. So your first set was your first set the graduation show?
Yes, and this was such a bizarre thing to me. Like I'd grown up watching stand-up my whole life, but I don't think it ever occurred to me that stand-up was a profession outside of, like, I guess, acting. Because all of the stand-ups that you really knew were also actors, like Dana Carvey and Bill Cosby, the ones that I knew anyway.
Yeah, well, at that time, I mean, a million comics had shows. Like, I mean, Paul Reiser, Roseanne Barr,
Ray Romano, Jerry Seinfeld, yes.
Yeah, they were all comics in the 70s and 80s who started as stand-up, who then got a show. Yeah, so back then, I felt like there was a lot more of that than there is now. I could be wrong. But
I completely agree with you. Like, I mean, the really veteran comics will tell you used to go to JFL and it would change your life because someone would offer you a development deal.
Oh my God, dude, the JFL stories from the 80s and like 90s blow my mind. You could be Joe Jerkoff Nobody, do a 5-minute set, and then someone's like, hey, we're going to give you a sitcom, and your life changed that night.
Exactly.
And so many of those people aren't even around anymore.
No. They don't need to be. They've got.
I know.
What's that word? They're sync. When your show goes for 5 seasons and now
syndicated.
Syndicated. Thank you.
I think I think this is the 4th time on this podcast I said I could be wrong about this, but I think Ray Romano made so much more money off Everybody Loves Raymond than Seinfeld did with Seinfeld, because Seinfeld doesn't translate all around the world. It's a very like unique sense of like American humor. But since Everybody Loves Raymond has that family dynamic, the marriage, the kids, the in-laws, that show translates around the world. And I think Ray Romano made like an unspeakable amount of money because his show works everywhere.
Well, good for him. I mean, because Seinfeld's a billionaire. So.
I know. And you know what's so funny? I was at the Cellar one time 15 years ago, and Ray Romano popped in and did a spot. I was in the front row, front table, and man, was that awesome. Like, I was so starstruck by him in the crowd, and he was so funny. He was murdering. But what I loved the most was that his set was about his family. It was Everybody Loves Raymond. He just cursed more. It was just him being himself, but still... Yeah. It was so fucking cool to see that.
Wait,
2 feet away.
That special during the pandemic that I was like, this is fucking amazing. It was so good. I did not
see that.
Oh, it was so good. He tells this story about his son running out of gas on a highway in LA, and he's like, "What are you like? What?" He's like, "You what?" Like, nowadays to run out of gas somewhere is just so like, okay.
Yeah, because your car literally has dinging sounds and the dashboard lights up.
Like, he's a 17-year-old kid. He's an idiot.
So was your first set that graduation show?
Yeah, because cool. I mean, I hadn't. It never even occurred to me, right? Like, I was just exploring it. I was looking into it. And then after the first class, I was like, how do you become a stand-up comedian? And then, like, people were talking about these things called open mics. And I was like, open mics? Like a poetry mic? Like, you know, where I come with my guitar and like,
sing about your feelings and...
Totally. Like, there was a whole economy out there around stand-up that I just had no awareness about. Like, I was completely ignorant of everything related to it other than what I saw on TV.
We all are until you dive into it. Like, like, and there's like levels too. Like, okay, you do the graduation show, or you like do your first open mic. Then you find out there's 75 other mics in town, and then you keep meeting other comics, and you're like, what is this world?
Oh, I had that exact experience, especially because now there's social media and Facebook will tell you how many mutual friends you have with someone. And
Oh yeah.
I remember friending Casey Aurora, Kunal Aurora, and I was flabbergasted that we had like 88 mutual friends. And this, I was like 2 years into comedy at this point. And I looked at the list and I'm like, these are all comics that I know that are getting up right now that are doing comedy. And to me, that just seemed like such an enormous universe. Now, if I went back and I looked at like my mutual friends with him, it's probably like 500 or 600. And most of them are pretty active. I'm like, shit.
Do you know Mary Radzinski at all?
Barely.
Okay,
I know the name. Yeah.
Absolutely hilarious. One of my best friends. Every time I see her on Facebook, we have like 1,200 mutual friends. And I'm like, that. I know specifically that is tied to her name because I see it all the time on my phone. But I'm like, that is so many fucking people. And that's not even a tip of the iceberg. That's just like mostly Philadelphia, New York-ish.
Totally. 100%. Yes. Yeah, exactly. There's a whole middle America out there that's thriving. They're doing just fine.
Dude, it's like wild. I mean, there are comics that just have a career by doing shows in Florida. There are specifically just Florida comics. There's people that just make a living doing comedy in the Midwest, from the Dakotas down to like Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, what's his face? He never left Minnesota.
Chad Daniels.
Chad Daniels. Yeah, he's so good.
He's so funny, dude. He is so funny. I love that though, because like Chad still lives in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. Nate Bargatze lives in Nashville. Dan Cummins lives in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and like they're just doing it from their hometown. That is so cool to me. Like,
but that like Chad, to my knowledge, I don't know that he ever left. And then, but Nate did. Nate spent like a decade in New York.
Yeah, I used to see him all the time up there in the early days when I would go up all the time.
Yeah, it was.
His success is wild, man. Good for him.
I find that very impressive. Like, because it just belies the myth that you have to be in New York, LA to make it. I'm like, not really.
And you definitely don't, especially with social media too. I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. It could be the worst thing in the world, but it's also very beneficial. I mean, look at like Andrew Schultz and like guys like Stavros that use TikTok and stuff, and then they sell out clubs just because they're posting these 30, 60-second clips. It's fucking bananas. There's no rhyme or reason to this.
Oh, I completely agree with you, because I just had the frustration of posting like a minute of some of my favorite comedy ever, and it got like 1,100 views. And then I posted a 20-second dumb intro that the host gave me that I piggybacked off of, and it's got like 7,000 views.
I know, it drives me nuts. I posted something. I posted a clip about 2 weeks ago promoting my headlining show in San Fran, and on my own like Instagram, it got like 500 views. The San Fran Punchline shared it; it got like 12,000, and then. Just reading the comments, like the first comment, not funny. I'm like, this is nuts. You don't, and it was a woman. Like, you don't have to say that. I swear to God, that was the first comment. I screenshotted it, and I'm going to talk about it. I'll talk about it tonight. And now,
what happened to that woman in her life that she even just keep going, keep it moving,
keep going. One time I boosted or bought like a Facebook ad to promote some shows, and the backlash was insane. People got like mad that like this sponsored ad came up in their newsfeed. Like, just keep scrolling. People were like literally DMing me and being like, get this shit off my timeline. I'm not interested in this. And I'm like, Jesus Christmas, guys.
They don't know how the internet works.
Oh,
I didn't specifically choose you, asshole.
And it's so funny because, okay, I am getting both my sets tonight filmed by a comic in San Fran that films comic sets, and I'm specifically filming to like post stuff on social media. So now here I am trying to think of like the most detailed, perfect set list in like 30 and 60-second clips. It's just wild. I want to go out and do my set and have fun, and I will. But tonight I have to like literally think of like the quickest shit just to post. Like, you know what I mean? It's just so.
Yes.
This is. I mean, we all. It's evolution, evolve or die. You know what I mean? Everything is an evolution. Comedy's changing, but it's just so weird to me when you just want to be a stand-up and do stand-up, but there's so many. It's a full-time job just being on social media with it anymore.
We were born
Full-time
at the wrong
job.
time.
I know. And I think of like, let's say like I'm really close to Dom Herrera or even Carol Montgomery is a great example. Back in the 80s, you had to like look in the newspaper to see what comics were coming to town, or like call the club or swing by the club and grab a flyer. It's like, it was much simpler time then. I'm jealous for all the guys, the comics that headlined through the 80s and didn't have to do any of this fucking horse shit.
I mean, but that was another thing I didn't even realize existed, like comedy clubs. Like that was completely news to me. I think I went to one comedy club in college because I guess a hopeful comic was selling tickets. They were they came into my class, asked the professor if they could do their pitch. I bought a couple, and I ended up going to the comic strip on the Upper East Side because at the time I lived there. I lived like 2 blocks from this place, and I had no idea it existed.
Wow. You probably walked by it a million times.
No clue. And then it was years later, I would say maybe like 4 years later, that I went to a comedy club again by invitation of someone who was going to be on the show, who wasn't even a comic. They were just doing a Desi night, like Indians from India, not Native American. Like they were doing a Desi night. And so he was invited as a speaker because he wrote a bunch of books. Like he wrote these thriller novels, but as I guess an Indian American, he was prominent in the community. But yeah, truly, I had no clue that there were dozens of comedy clubs, let alone places like Gotham and the Cellar that, existed a half-hour drive from where I grew up.
Do you remember the first time you stepped into a comedy club? Was your mind blown? Because mine was, and I know this sounds weird, but as soon as I walked into the Laugh House, I was 19 years old. It was the same night I did my first open mic. It was October 13th, 2004. I stepped in a comedy club for the first time, and I immediately knew I was in like heaven. I knew I found my place. I knew I found my people. I just, my arm hair is standing up. I remember just being like, this is the fantasy I've had in my mind for all these years since I was a kid. I'm in a comedy club right now.
See, that's the feeling I had as a kid because I was such a theater nerd. My dad, for like my birthday and Christmas, would take me to go see a musical or a Broadway play or something. So whenever I got the chance to see live performance, whether it was like Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac or a musical, like I was just like, I need to be on the stage. I need to do that. And being a singer and a musician, like I love those things, and I'm so grateful I got to learn. Like I can read music, and I can appreciate real talent when it exists. I just knew that wasn't the medium for me. Acting was a little bit closer. Stand up. Once I did stand up, I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm like, this is it. Yeah,
found it. Yep.
And because I was that person in my friend group. Like I was the really like the goofy one, the outrageous one, the one that said things like, my mom's not going to like that. My friends would always give me a warning, like, Linette, don't say anything weird. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I love knowing like how many comics are also musicians. There's so many of us. I mean, I've been playing guitar for 30 years. I don't play as often as I would like, but I still pick it up a couple times a week here and there. But I mean, so I'm with Chris Porter this weekend, and he is a guitarist as well. And my really good friend Jill Maragos, she is a drummer. And whenever we're on the road together, we worked in a couple cities together. We always go to Guitar Center for hours. Like it's so many comics are also musicians. And
I play French horn, so it's not a jamming instrument.
Part of the brass family, right?
Yeah.
I played the saxophone and the trumpet in grade school.
Yeah. I started out with flute because my mother said I should, and that was a mistake. And then thank God our middle school band instructor was like, hey, who wants to learn horn? And I was like, anything to get me away from the flute.
Want to hear a really random side note? So I'm in here in San Fran, and the club manager, Dana, she's awesome. She has a master's degree in flute. She is a professional flautist.
Good for her and Ian
I know.
Anderson, because I can't do it.
Ian Anderson, what a great reference. Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
So
my first concert.
Oh, yeah?
My first concert, Jethro Tull, with my dad. I was 14 years old, and it was at NJ Pack, which is enormous. And I vividly remember thinking, oh, that's what pot smells like.
It's everywhere here in San Francisco. You can't walk down half a block without smelling it. NJ Pack is a beautiful room. I had the chance to perform there. And not only did I have the chance to perform there, I got heckled there and had to, it was like a fight or flight moment. I was opening for Sebastian and like shit was going down with this one guy being an asshole. So I like laid down the law and I had 3,500 people clapping and cheering for me just saying, shut the fuck up. And I'll tell you what, it was way cooler than doing my jokes. I mean, just getting that reaction from people was something I will never forget. And then I still had like 8 or so minutes to go. It was like one of the best sets I ever had because I was a new man after I knew that crowd was on my side. And this weird moment went awry. I handled it. I sold my jokes so much better. I had more energy. I was like a totally different comic after getting into it with this fucking
Was that
winner.
the theater at NJ Pack?
No, this was in the main room.
Wow, that's enormous. Yeah. So I also played NJ Pack for very different reasons. When I was in high school, I was with a semi-professional choir, and they got hired by the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra to be the choir for the fourth act of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. So for the fourth movement. And so when I was 17, I was singing on stage at NJ Pack. And we did a tour of like New Jersey. We did the New Jersey State Theater, NJ Pack, and then a couple other places. It was insane. Like I remember inviting people to my concert and they're like, all right, I guess we'll go to your choir concert. And then they saw what it was and where it was. And they were like, oh.
Did you prefer singing or playing French horn? Which did you like more?
Oh, probably singing because I was better at it. But I it's so bizarre in that I have such tremendous stage fright when it comes to singing solos that I just don't even have. It doesn't even occur to me with stand-up. The only time I get nervous doing stand-up is if I'm performing as an opener for a big comic that I want to like love and respect me.
Yeah, and we've all been in that situation, and sometimes it's like they don't even pay attention to you or even notice you're in the room. You're like, oh man, I got to crush in front of the headliner. That doesn't matter. I got to crush in front of them, say that so they know who I am. And then like you come off stage, you're not even at the club yet.
No.
You're like, I just spent all day stressing because I want to impress this person.
100%. I remember the first time I opened for Attell, I was so nervous. I didn't eat. My stomach was upset, and I was like, "Oh, these are real nerves." And then he wasn't even in the room.
It's happened. That's happened to me with Attell, but I've worked with him a couple times in a couple clubs. So he was like, he's one of my favorites. I've said it a million times in a million ways on this podcast, but like I remember hosting for him at the Philly Helium 12, 13 years ago. And I came off stage and he like quoted a couple of my own jokes back to me. And I was like, he's like, that's some really funny stuff. And he like gave me a tag idea. And I was just like, I didn't sleep for a week because my mind was just blown with like, my hero is complimenting me and like giving me ideas. And we're just shooting the shot, dude, fucking wild.
Oh, it's the same. Whenever I'm like in a slump or whatever, I have to force myself to remember that I've done that I've opened for Dave Attell.
Were you a fan of his when you first started? Like when you were taking Corey's class, who were some of your favorite comics back then?
Okay, so because like this is my obsessive compulsive personality, once I started comedy, I became like an uber nerd. And because my day job at the time was just like computer systems, it was a lot of heavy data processing. So I would listen to stand up all day, every day at work for hours at a time because my job didn't require any attention. And so I became obsessed with like Bill Burr, Sebastian Maniscalco. From the minute I heard Kathleen Madigan, I was in love. I was like, oh, this is my bitch. I love her. I asked if you performed at the theater at NJPAC because she's one of the few headliners I've purchased tickets to see. And the last time I saw her was in April at the theater at NJPAC.
Cool.
So Kathleen Madigan, growing up, my dad, as we would ride to Christmas dinner, we used to play Pat Cooper.
Oh man, that's really going back.
Yeah, the wedding album.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. So Pat, and then you discover Sebastian Maniscalco and Jim Jeffries, and when people always ask you your top 5, I'm like, I don't know.
I know, and you know what? Fuck people that ask that question because you'll throw out incredible names and everybody just stares like, who?
I know.
Heard of them.
Oh my god, I get that with Kathleen Madigan all the time. I was like, she has like 2 or 3 Netflix specials.
Mm-hmm. She's great. She has Moose does her podcast too.
Really?
My producer, yeah. I hate when people ask, like, because when people ask me my favorite comics, I say Chad Daniels, I say Dad Cummins, I say Laurie Kilmartin and Jackie Cation because they are my heroes, and then people want you to say like Chris Rock and Larry the Cable Guy. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, no.
Like, no, like there are so many amazing, funny comics that aren't just household names, and those people are my heroes.
Totally. I mean, Chris Rock is pretty amazing.
Oh, of course. I mean, he is, but I mean, when people ask you about stand-up, I think they expect you to just be like, I love Seinfeld. Be like, okay, that's great.
Now it feels almost arrogant to be like, oh, I like this comic, but only their early stuff, or
like the Beatles, the way people were like, I like the stuff from the early 60s. As once you started doing drugs, shit got weird.
Yeah. But no, it's so go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so after you did that first set, you were hooked. That was it? Hook, line, sinker, you're a stand-up. Isn't that wild? I love the people after that first set are just in it, and you're in it, and here you are.
I did that, and then I foolishly did a bringer show where I had like 22 people there. I crushed that, and I was excited in that, well, a lot of people are going to be coming to the same show, so I have to give them a new set. And so I was doing new-ish material that was going well, not knowing that like no new material actually goes well. It does well the first time, and you're like, I'm amazing. And then you do it 3 more times, and you're like, I'm terrible.
Yeah, like I know. There is something magical about that because when you do, I did something brand new for the first time last night, and it did really, really well. So I know that's not going to happen tonight because last night I was excited, and you like sell it better. And then once you do it 2 or 3 more times, you're like, oh, I got to fix this. Like it's funny, but it's not popping the way it did that first time.
I know. I hate that new bit baby feeling. It's like,
I know. But I mean, there's nothing better than that feeling when you like, go home that night. You're like, I did the new thing, then it worked.
So I did that bringers show. I didn't have another set for like 3 months because this is how stupid I am. I did a year-long workshop in comedy because I'm very analytical. Like I basically believe there's a process to everything. You're not really reinventing the wheel. There are some comics that do things so wildly differently. They've like practically invented a new genre of comedy. Like that's great. But for the most part, there's like a format. There's dozens of books on stand-up comedy. I'm like, let me learn this art craft and then I'll learn it in like a way that speaks to me and then I'll do it. And so I spent a year in this comedy workshop that was basically like going to grad school for stand-up comedy, but not nearly as effective, I would say. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was in class from 6 to 9 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
I didn't even know such thing even existed.
It did, and now it doesn't. It's gone now, which is appropriate. Like Monday, what was Monday? Monday would be like acting. Tuesday was improv. Wednesday was stand-up. So I was actually only doing stand-up once a week. And then Thursday would be a sketch writing class. So it was like all the forms of comedy.
Really covering all of it, yeah.
And it went from September to May. And on the weekends, like once every quarter or so, you would have a class, like a show, whether it was your improv show or your stand-up show. So basically, in my first 8 months, I did 4 shows. I had class every week for 7 months or so.
That sounds intense.
It was intense, but they'd be like, "Oh, did you guys go to any mics?" I'm like, "When would I have had fucking time to go to a mic? Like, I'm here with you 6 to 9. I work a day job."
I know. And, I remember being in New York City and, like, coming from Philadelphia, all the open mics were 8 or 9 o'clock. But I remember being in New York City and seeing open mics at like 4:30. And I'm like, that is wild. It's daylight for 6 more hours. And and motherfuckers are doing stand up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. Well, then once I got out of that program and I had like the time to go do things in the evening, then I was like that asshole that would do three mics a night. I started barking. So I would do shows, like proper shows, at least once a week. So I had managed to gain some really good traction in my first 2 years of doing comedy. And then I went to Iraq.
No. And not too many comics can say that.
No, yeah. So it's a little tough for me when people ask, like, how long have you been doing comedy? Because I'm like, well, I started in 2014, and they think that I'm going to say, well, I quit or I took a break or something. I'm like, well, I never quit, but the Army sent me to the Middle East.
Yeah, so you kind of had to take a bit of a hiatus. Now, let me ask you this. Are you tight with any other comics that are also military? Is there like a, how many?
There are
I know
a lot of
you
us.
Can't put a number on it, but okay, is that you guys have like your own, not subculture, but I mean, you guys definitely have a bond that none of the rest of us have.
Yes and no. I will say that I am like the 2, well, I guess 3 veteran comics that I'm close with. I'm very close with. They're not just like occasional friends, I guess.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of us, like Derek Humphreys, KP Burke, Dean Edwards, of SNL. It was amazing. He was a veteran. Bill Cosby, George Carlin.
That is true. George Carlin. Yep.
So
Gary Owen was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of us who find our way to comedy after stints in the military. I believe I don't know the entire universe of comedians, but of the folks I know, I'm the only one who's currently in the Army and pursuing stand-up comedy. Everyone else has gotten out.
Wow. Now, have you ever done shows specifically for the Army? Or is that...
Yes. Well, I did the one in Iraq, and then I do a lot of veterans fundraising events.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done a lot of those. And that's how you get to know the other veteran comics, because you just, and every Veterans Day, every Memorial Day or 4th of July, people want to do like a For the Vets show. And then if you are a vet, it's even better. So we kind of all tend to know each other.
Yeah, no, that seems like, that's very, very specific. You guys, like I said, share something that the rest of us don't have. So I kind of figured, you would have a tight crew of those people as well. Because you have your comedian friends, and then you have your group of friends that you're just naturally tighter with for personal reasons, Yeah.
Pete Stegmeyer, he's also a veteran comic. He's great.
Okay, I know the name. I know pretty much all the names you mentioned, but I don't know them personally.
Yeah, they're all in New York, I guess.
Okay, and you live in New York City, right? Or are you still in New Jersey?
So we just moved the beginning of April, because apparently we had such a crazy good pandemic deal that when our lease ended, they raised our rent 50%, and I was like, and we're out.
50%. America.
50%.
America.
But I don't know. I can't do this. I hate this commute. I'm like driving at least 2 hours a day now. I literally live 23 minutes, no traffic from where my apartment was by Lincoln Center. And the problem is, well, now I drive to my garage that I still have, that I keep in the city. And then I drive to a gig, and then I drive here, and then driving home, no matter what, is going to, I just don't know if I'm going to end up hitting traffic, construction, or an accident.
Oh, yeah.
So no traffic. It's brilliant where I live. but but when
But
is there
even
no
just the
traffic?
slightest thing can throw the whole entire evening off.
Yeah.
Now, when you go out, because I spent a little time in the New York scene, but I didn't really utilize it the way most comics do. When you go out at night to do shows, do you do like 3 or 4 or 5 spots in a night? Do you really
If
try to
I'm
pack it
lucky
in?
enough, I mean, if I get booked, I am trying to look strategically to do stuff like that. I used to kind of just be happy if I had like a spot or two a night. I'm like, that's good for me. Like, I'm like, if I'm doing 10, 15 shows a week, I'm like, this is great. Now I'm like, now I want to get in more than one spot a night just because like it's such a pain in the ass to get there.
Yeah. The other night, for the first time in a long time, I did 3 sets here in San Francisco. There was actually a comedy show in the restaurant in my hotel. And I was like, no way. So I walked down and then they gave me time. I was walking to the Punchline. The Punchline's across the street. So I did that bar show. Then I went over to the Punchline and then I got a late night headlining spot at another bar show in town. And it was so awesome to do 3 sets in a night in 3 different spots. I haven't done that in years.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. But I was like, man, I would never do that at home. I would never do that in Philadelphia. I needed to be in a different city. Those days are done.
Yeah, there was a period like in May before summer when everything dries up. Like I had like 5 shows in one night, and that was the most I've ever done in a single day.
I
But
had 5 in one night too, years ago. Yeah,
they're not all great. You're like,
they're
actually,
not all great, but like that hustle is so fun. Like I think it's more the thrill of the hustle than anything. The good sets are the bonuses. I just like it's cool to bounce here, go over here, and then bang that all out in one night.
Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, this September's coming up quick. I had nothing. This July has been so fucking dry. I'm like, oh, okay.
I'm coming up on a very dead August. I have 2 local shows, maybe 3 around Philadelphia the entire month, and that is it. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, summer things tend to slow down a little anyways, but I know for a fact this is my bleakest summer in a long, long time. But it just makes me want to like book up the fall the best I can,
Exactly. I've already got some stuff lined up for fall where I'm looking like, oh, fall's going to be great. And then I look at my schedule right now for August. I'm like, granted, not all the dates are on there yet, but it's still, I'm like, that's like going to be 15 shows for the month. That's it. But my shows are so different than yours, right? Like you're headlining a weekend. I'm happy to do a club spot here and there. It's a 10-minute spot.
Well, I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, I got to headline here on Tuesday. I'm featuring for the rest of the weekend. A couple months ago, I hosted a weekend at the Buffalo Helium. Anywhere where there's like, I just want to fucking do it.
Oh, I'm with you. Like it's been on my goals list for 2020 to finally come up with some merch to make some of these road spots a little valuable.
Yep. I mean, merch. I haven't sold merch since the beginning of the pandemic, but what a game changer, man. I mean, I would sell t-shirts at $20 each. Even if just 5 people buy a t-shirt, you got $100 in your pocket, man. And even like having the square, like game changer. And sometimes all it would take would be one person to buy a shirt, and then the chain reaction starts. The next 3 people behind that woman buy shirts. I should start doing that shit again. But then you have to have like an extra suitcase, and you're flying around the country. You got to check a bag. So I'm always trying to figure out the most convenient way to like. I don't know. Sometimes I'm just lazy.
Well, I was hosting Governors in Long Island, and the headliner brought some shirts with him, and I was shocked to see how many he got rid of. I was like, I'm an idiot. Like, I'm so incapable of making a decision because it feels so permanent. I'm like, and if nobody likes this, I'm going to be stuck with all these fucking t-shirts.
Dude, selling merch is like anything else in comedy. There is no rhyme or reason. I have brought a full suitcase, like large suitcase of t-shirts, shot glasses, and CDs on the road, and not fucking sold a single one, and I'm flying home with the full suitcase. That has happened several times. And then sometimes you just sell one t-shirt across 6 shows, or like one shot glass, and then sometimes you even feel bad for somebody in line for whatever reason. You're like, the only person talking to me, just take this t-shirt. Now I'm just giving shit away. I swear to God, it's just like the shows themselves. There's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah. I can't make a decision. I saw one comic, Mike Jenkins, you might know him. Very funny, clean, super squeaky clean comic. He turned a bunch of his jokes into these greeting cards, and I was like, that's brilliant. It's easy to carry, it's portable, it's kind of evergreen, right? Like it's
the merch is, I mean, Dan Cummins has a children's book that he sells. It's not really for children, it's for adults, but it's like written like a children's book. Amy Miller sells pillowcases.
Yeah.
Awesome idea. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, I saw Angela Johnson at Helium 12 years ago. She was selling nail files. And I'm like,
that's hilarious.
I mean, anything that can sell. Anything that can sell.
That's exactly it. And Carol, I just did her show at Levity Live. She was selling reusable shopping bags. I'm like, it's so fucking lightweight. It's easy. You brand it. You put your shit on there. I'm like,
and people are going to use it. And people are going to see Carol Montgomery on a bag when you're at Whole Foods or whatever.
That is a big one for me because I'm such an environmentalist. I'm like, I personally hate T-shirts. So the idea of selling T-shirts kind of goes against my grain.
All right, we're going to wrap this up here in a second. Give us all, how can everybody find you?
My website, LinettePalladino.com, or my Instagram at Linette_Palladino. And that's pretty much it. I don't fucks with the Twitter. I have a Twitter account. I think occasionally I drunk tweet JLo, because as a fellow Puerto Rican, I am upset at the standard that she has created.
Are you working on a bit about that?
I do have a bit about that. I'm like, we are both Puerto Rican.
I'm not going to get into this whole bit, but that's so funny. Just even drunk tweeting JLo in itself is funny because I have a whole bit about me drunk emailing Wendy's.
I love that bit.
So it's like, if you're doing something, if you're getting a hold of somebody more powerful or more successful than you when you're drunk, like I'm on board.
By the way, you mentioned Mike Vecchione. He has one of my favorite bits of all time.
Which is?
Well, he's Catholic, and he'll go to church, and he'll light a candle and say a prayer. But because he's competitive, he blows out everybody else's candles.
That's so funny, and that's such a Mike Vecchione joke.
It's so good. I didn't do it justice, but it is so good. Everyone go find that bit.
I'm one of those weirdos. Like I just remember everybody's sets. Like sometimes I'll forget my own, but I can do Mike Vecchione's 15 minutes from 18 years ago. That's still stuck up here. Same thing with like Joe DeRosa, Kurt Metzger, Jay Okerson, all the guys I saw at the Laugh House when I first started. I can probably still do the set they were doing when they were like the host or feature.
Yeah. Well, not to toot your horn, I will say that what I love most about your podcast is that, because you're in a completely different scene than me and you grew up with different comics, it's so interesting to hear your conversations with guys like Big Jay Okerson. Like, I don't know much about the Philly scene. So I'm like, oh, it's a whole world. It's a different, like, I know where I would go to hang as a young comic, which is the Grizzly Pear, and you would go somewhere else. And, you're, I'm telling you about your life. So it's interesting. It's interesting to hear about the Philly scene.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. And you've mentioned to me before that you like specific episodes, and you know that I had Carol on. That was a really fun one. So, but thank you for listening, and I'm happy to have you on.
No, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, anytime. We'll definitely do it again. All right, guys. Today's guest was Linette Palladino. You heard all of the ways you can hit her. Go find her. She's always posting awesome stuff. Thank you for listening. Word. Thank you.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.